Hi everyone, welcome to the NoName podcast. This is another episode that I'm recording with one of the special guests again. Uh, this today's guest is Sourabh Ganpatye. He is one of the lawyers and a history enthusiast. I came in contact with Sourabh when I was on Facebook, and I have been a follower of his Facebook updates since a long time. He writes a lot of topics on. He writes about history. He writes about politics. He's a lawyer by profession, so he writes a lot of posts on socio-political situations in India. So today I'm going to talk to him regarding one of the topics that I read his blog on. It was about Lokmanya Tilak and Mahatma Gandhi. So we know that Mahatma Gandhi was the leader of Indian independence, and Tilak was the former leader before him. So I just wanted to talk to him regarding the leadership change in the Indian independence struggle since. Since Mahatma Gandhi came to the picture. So I hope that this conversation will entice you, and if you like it, please subscribe to the channel. Okay, so Saurabh is here with us. As I told you already, he has written a lot of blogs about history, and I have been since I have been a follower of his Facebook updates since a long time. I read about his posts on social political issues and a lot of other things. So, Saurabh, welcome to the No Name podcast. Thanks for having you. It's a pleasure to have you here. By the way.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity to present my thoughts before your viewers. I hope the session goes well again.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So we'll start about. I know that today's topic is all about Mahatma Gandhi and Tilak. How the leadership change was, and there are a lot of questions that I have in mind. But before we kind of go to the topic, I would like to start about yourself. Knowing about yourself. How did the journey start? I was always interested and excited to know that there is someone who writes about history with a different perspective altogether. So, if you could talk about your journey, what made you write on history, on social political topics, and all those? If we could speak about that first.
Uh, Again, I have to discuss my background for this.
Okay,
Before entering into the advocacy, I was completely into the history, politics, economics, and other parts.
right.
Basically, I was a UPSC aspirant.
Okay,
So I completed my MA in International Relations from University of Mumbai, and after that I had a job one point of time, and then I turned my career towards the UPSC. From that particular preparation, I understood so many dimensions of history, and basically I understood how the view towards history should be more you can say more clear. Apart from that, in history, when I was learning history at that time, somehow I found that after Lokmanya Tilak, the legacy had come to Mahatma Gandhi. Because one thing I'm sure, that Mahatma Gandhi was the chairman of Congress only once, and Lokmanya Tilak was never a chairman of Congress. But
okay,
yet, whenever Lokmanya Tilak was a chairman of Congress, he was the most important leader of Congress. Of course, that era is much before Mahatma Gandhi.
right.
But then there are the negative talks about Mahatma Gandhi. And when the legacy was transferred from Lokmanya Tilak to Gandhi, somehow people take this era as the era of non-violence, and non-violence is somehow taken as the impotency. But I'm purposely using this unparliamentary word. It is taken as impotency in the Indian politics, and there are many people have written that. For some people, when you're doing any kind of movement with a proper discipline, proper attitude, proper discipline, and a methodology, for some people who are too aggressive, that particular moment is not a moment itself. Okay, so these were the thoughts coming in our mind, and the basic point was that when people were saying that if Lokmanya Tilak had been there till say 1930-32, India would have got independence much before 1947. Now
Right.
that was a thought provocation for me. And then after some years, when I entered into the field of legacy law, I realized that Mahatma Gandhi was basically a barrister. And at that time, much after Lokmanya Tilak, India was dealing with British from legal point of view. So what were the methodologies of Indian national movement under Mahatma Gandhi from legal point of view? That made me somehow think about the effectivity of Mahatma Gandhi's unquestionable leadership. So this actually had driven me to have a comparison between Lokmanya Tilak and Mahatma Gandhi. That was the thought.
Okay. Okay, I mean, I'll come to that. I mean, that's what the topic is, and the next question was about that. I mean, if you could tell us what were the landscape at that time, because it was a sensitive as well as a vulnerable time frame in Indian history, I guess, before the independent India, and Lokmanya Tilak was already an established political leader, and there's Mahatma Gandhi coming in from South Africa, and he wants to kind of he didn't come with the perspective of taking over the leadership, but at the same time he was a leader at some point of time after the tilak after the tilakida. So I want to kind of explain this particular landscape, how the situation was and what made Mahatma Gandhi took over Lokmanya Tilak.
Um, the most important fact is that if you understand the canvas of both the leaders, during the period of Lokmanya Tilak, Indian national movement was like a stone that was not having any life, or it was aptly called as a, an ice stone. Okay, in essence, there was no life in it, and apart from that, there was nothing, basically nothing in it. There was no life. There was not even any warmness in it, and because of that, challenge before Lokmanya Tilak was much higher. Apart from that, if you understand the beginning of Indian national movement on paper begins from 1885. I'm
Correct.
saying on paper, not morally, because the scope is very large.
Correct.
But what happens is that suppose if it begins in 1885, during the national movement, you will understand in these days there was a big confusion over how to deal with the Britishers. Now there was basically two sects of the Indian national movement. One was the extremist sect, and one was a moderate sect. Moderates were going with the legal methodologies. They were not having any head-on fights against the British. And apart from that, they wanted British to do the basic social reforms in India. Now that moderate legacy begins from Raja Ram Mohan Roy. Moderate regime begins from Raja Ram Mohan Roy, and then the social establishment that we had, and the kind of laws British were bringing, basically anti-sati law, much after that there was a law called Sharda Act. Sharda Act was preventing the girl below 12 years age from marrying somewhere. So British did not interfere in direct religion directly, but they brought this law. So British were bringing this kind of laws, and that's why moderates were considering Britishers as someone sent by God, because India was not having any exposure to the world. No, British Raj in India or British entry in India is aptly called as the modern Indian history, because with with the advent of Europeans, India started sensing the modern world, and that is why somehow the Britishers were in good books of these moderates, and moderates were also trying vice versa. But at that time, there were people like Lokmanya Tilak in Congress who started thinking that if you want to bring the social reforms, you have to bring social reforms by bringing laws, and if you are bringing laws, then you have to have that legislative power. Under the British, where is that legislative power? If you do not have legislative power, then how will you bring the reforms by law? And for every now and then, in order to bring the reforms by the methodology of bringing legislative actions, if you want to go and beg towards the British, then what is the exact use of this entire movement if you are not fighting against the British? Because Lokmanya Tilak was the person who was basically sensing that we are under the bondage of the British. Apart from that, it was during his regime. It was during his leadership when he himself was writing some dramas. I'll just give you an idea. There were two dramas by Lokmanya Tilak. One was called as Kichak Vad, and another was basically Shivaji and Afzal Khan meet, in which it that ends up Shivaji Maharaj killing Afzal Khan. Now, what happens is that in Kichak Vad, Kichak was somewhere trying to. Kichak was having a crush on Draupadi, and he tries to molest Draupadi, and he's killed. Eventually, he's killed by the Bhim.
Yeah.
Now, what happens is Kichak was here portrayed as British, and Draupadi was portrayed as Bharat Mata.
Mm. Yes.
Okay, and that drama was not written by Tilak, but it was written in the saying that Bhim was somehow portrayed as Bharat Mata, and like, Tilak was a representative of that.
Mm.
Shivaji Maharaj and Afzal Khan. Eventually, Afzal Khan ends up getting killed by Shivaji Maharaj, but Shivaji Maharaj was basically Indian,
mm,
and Afzal Khan was a British or British Raj.
right.
Now, even you won't believe the dialogues were also written in such a way that in these dialogues, if people start watching those dialogues, listening those dialogues from point of view of Indians and the Britishers, they will realize the dialogues are targeting the British. So prima facie, the play is going on between Bhim and Kichak or Shivaji Maharaj and Afzal Khan, but in reality, it is pointing out towards the independence movement only.
Yeah.
Now, that was a period. That was in 1890s. So that was a canvas. Basically, a very small section of Indians actually had this particular, you can say, realization of bondage. Then comes 1910s or the 20th century. In this 20th century, in 1905, there was a first ever pan India movement. That was the Swaraj movement. Before that, in Kesri and Maratha, Lokmanya Tilak tried to get some awakening among the Indian people. So Kesri was getting read in the chalks of Maharashtra. So one person was reading, other people were listening. So in a sense, people literacy rate at that time during the time of Lokmanya Tilak was not that high.
Mm,
So and apart from that, when literacy rate is not that high, eventually what happens is the basic wisdom doesn't lie that there. So because of this, challenges before Lokmanya Tilak were very severe.
mm,
Till the period of Mahatma Gandhi or till the period of Gandhi settling in Indian National Congress, it had become more and more regularized. And apart from that, if you compare 1885 to 1905, the clarity of Congress against the British was much lesser than that of 1905 to 1925. 1925 and 1924 is the period when Mahatma Gandhi became the chairman of Congress. Okay. Yeah, so that clarity was very less during Tilak at that time. So giving them the clarity, creating awareness against Lokmanya, against British. So that was a big challenge, and that's why he was also called as a father of India. You can say father of India's disgruntledness or dissatisfaction. That was called. Lokmanya Tilak was given that particular degree. So this particular degree also was not liked by Lokmanya Tilak. He used to hate British like that. So
mm.
in eventually in for the coming talks, we will discuss more on this.
Right, right. I will come to that. I mean, this is a good canvas that you have presented in front of us. That okay, this is the situation where, at one side, Tilak was, facing a social reformer based independence movement, and at the same time, Mahatma Gandhi coming in with a lot of mature mindset of Indians between. I mean, among the Indians who are now quite matured by now by the time Mahatma Gandhi came in. But I would like to know. I mean, in your blog, you have mentioned that there are few policies which Tilak introduced already, and Mahatma Gandhi kind of took it over after he came in. Of course, his ways was different, but the objective was same. So, I mean, as a history reader, I would say that there's difficulty when it comes to for a new leader when he's coming in. It would be difficult for Mahatma Gandhi to kind of introduce his own, satyagraha and all those things that were there. So there is a fundamental difference between the ideologies of Tilak as well as Mahatma Gandhi. So how do you kind of think that okay, there are some policies which were already laid by Tilak, and Mahatma Gandhi comes in and he takes it over. So I mean, this is at one point of time it looks okay, but at the same time it looks quite opposite. So I mean, if you could explain that a bit.
If you have a basic comparison between the personality of both,
Right.
Tilak is always shown as aggressive, masculine
Hmm.
with nature leader.
Yeah.
Apart from if you see the personality of Mahatma Gandhi, he's basically denigrated because of that ahimsa theory.
Hmm.
Okay. And then if you see, you will never even imagine that Mahatma Gandhi is basically fighting against anyone. When Mahatma Gandhi fight, that goes against each other completely. Where on the other hand, Tilak was a very aggressive leader, and that is why you can say the probability of similarity between two leaders is as good as no nothing. Apart from that, they themselves used to have some problems between each other because their thinking about the Indian national movement was a bit different. But what happens in that during the Tilak's time, if you see, then Tilak basically gave four ideas. First was Swaraj. Second was nationalist education. Third was Swadeshi. and fourth, Swaraj, Swadeshi, nationalist education, and boycott. Yes, boycott. Now, what happens is that these all four programs are during the period of Swadeshi movement. The name was itself for the Swadeshi movement. And now, if I stick to this particular point, then what programs did Mahatma Gandhi give? Gram Swaraj, Gram Swaraj. So it was more pinpointed and deep-rooted program. Gram Swaraj. Swadeshi, yes. When Tilak says Swadeshi, Gandhi says not just Swadeshi. He also talks about the people who are fighting against Swadeshi. He also talks about the you can say khadi.
Hmm.
He talks about khadi. So if you boycott something, then what are you going to use? You're using the domestic products. That's khadi.
Yeah.
Apart from that, when Gandhi Tilak talks about the education, Gandhi talks about, I mean, Tilak talks about nationalist education, Gandhi talks about Nayi Talim. So
Right.
if you see this, then Gandhi's four programs, Nayi Talim, Gram Swaraj, Khadi. Now this is nothing but a next step of Tilak's program, next version of Tilak's program, more pinpointed version of and more organized versions of Tilak program. In the words of Mahatma Gandhi himself, he says that it was a bulwark set for me by Lokmanya Tilak.
Hmm.
When Mahatma Gandhi was given the punishment under section 124A of IPC, Gandhi thanked Tilak. Gandhi thanked Britishers for granting him the punishment that was granted to Lokmanya Tilak. So when I'm granted this particular punishment, this is the best respect Britishers have offered me because I'm directly getting compared with Lokmanya Tilak. I'm heavily obliged to you. That's what Mahatma Gandhi says. So in a way, he was respecting Gandhi very much.
Hmm. Right. So, I mean, it's a good, thing that you have explained that whatever policies that Tilak already had in mind, Mahatma Gandhi just took it over. So, but again, I mean, there must be a few iterations or incidents in the history where these two ideologies clash somewhere. I mean, I know even though the path is similar, I mean, the objective is similar, there were some incidents where the clash might have appeared. So, are there any other incidents like those where Gandhi could not, go on the path that Tilak has already laid in front of him?
In person, yes, and ideologically, yes, yes.
Okay.
Okay. In person clashes, yes, but there were not many clashes because what happened was that when Mahatma Gandhi reached India
Mm-hmm.
at the age of 38, he reached India and then he was given, and first of all, he had his own guru in some Indian freedom strugglers, okay, Indian freedom fighters. So Gopal Krishna Gokhale was the main guru of Mahatma Gandhi.
Yes.
I know Gopal Krishna Gokhale was main political competent of Lokmanya Tilak. Now that means Mahatma Gandhi's political guru was the main competitor of Lokmanya Tilak.
Hmm.
Okay. Now this Mahatma Gandhi's guru Gopal Krishna Gokhale gave him the first advice of moving around the entire India,
Okay.
understanding the entire India, and then putting his opinion before the people.
Right.
So, in a sense, when Mahatma Gandhi became active in the Indian politics, it was in 1918, 1999, sorry, 1919. At that time, Tilak was coming to the end of his political and personal life also.
Hmm.
Reason is that Tilak's last contribution was in Home Rule movement. That was in 1916, post 1960, in the 1916. Yes, because Britishers not giving us the due share they had they had promised us in the exchange of help in the First World War.
Okay.
So that Home Rule movement was the last contribution. Apart from that, in 1919, it was Valentine Chirol who gave the degree of Father of Indian Unrest to Lokmanya Tilak. He called Tilak Father of Indian Unrest.
Right.
And Tilak was very furious over that. And then Tilak went to Britain to fight that particular case. He
Okay.
lost that case. Basically, it took a lot of time and toll on his life also. Okay. So when he came to India, within few months he died. So at that time, there are references that Tilak and Gandhi were having one-to-one discussions and they were having the differences in opinion. But
Hmm.
the differences in opinion and differences in policies are also surfaced when Gandhi denied Muslims what Tilak had allowed Muslims to get. In a
Yeah.
sense, in 1916, that was called Lucknow Pact. Lucknow Pact is the heyday period of Lokmanya Tilak's life. Lokmanya Tilak's best contribution was Lucknow Pact
Right.
because it was during Tilak's leadership only there was moderate extremist gap between the or Congress. Congress broke for the first time. But in 1916, Tilak had double success. Moderates and extremists on the one hand, and Congress and Khilafat movement on the other hand.
Yeah.
So that Lucknow Pact was the best performance ever that was delivered by Lokmanya Tilak. However,
Mhm.
in return of what? In the exchange of what? Tilak allowed the separate constituencies for Muslims.
Oh.
In a sense, when in one particular area, people of different religions are staying, all of them have right to vote. But when Muslims or Hindus in that particular area are majority in number, they will only vote. So only their person will get elected. So in a way, Muslim leader will be representing Muslim. Today, if Muslim leader comes, even if person like Asaduddin Owaisi comes, he's not just a leader or the representative of Muslims. He's a representative of all Hindus, non-Hindus, Christians, Buddhists, Catholics in Hyderabad state, Hyderabad region. Okay. So even if a hardcore Muslim leader comes in, he is represented by many. But at that time, if a Muslim is represented, sorry, Muslim, yes, Muslim is represented. The Muslim, you can say, representative was representing his own people only.
Mm.
So if you see, the separate constituencies have created Pakistan out of India.
Yes.
Those separate constituencies were first delivered by Lokmanya Tilak because Khilafat movement was willing to have separate constituencies for Muslims, and that demand was basically agreed by Lokmanya Tilak. If you come to Mahatma Gandhi's politics, he disagreed with this particular politics.
Mm.
And remember one thing: there is one person that we are forgetting. His name is Muhammad Ali Jinnah.
Yeah.
Muhammad Ali Jinnah was the main advocate of Lokmanya Tilak, legal advocate of Lokmanya Tilak. In
Okay.
many cases, if you see, Muhammad Ali Jinnah has represented Lokmanya Tilak really well. And Tilak used to love Jinnah like anything. And he used to call Jinnah the symbol of Hindu Muslim unity. And same Muhammad Ali Jinnah left Congress when he was having some unrest against Mahatma Gandhi. Are you getting my point? So, with this particular point only, we can see there are ideological differences between two, but there are practical differences between two. And on but the other occasions also, if you see Lokmanya Tilak, I cannot say that what he did was wrong, but somehow, if you see the Muslim appeasement in some kind of in some way was began by Lokmanya Tilak. At the same time, Mahatma Gandhi is accused of Muslim appeasement. But if you see during the when Gandhi came to Congress, there were many people, Muslim leaders in Congress. But when India got independence, when Gandhi was unquestionable leader of Congress, at that time there was only one Muslim leader in Congress, and his name was Maulana Abul Kalam Azad. Okay, so on that front, if you see that there are ideological differences between two, and they are surfaced basically, but we have not explored that area so well.
Yeah, I mean, that was going to be my next question actually, because I happened to read a book by Sheshram More. Uh, 1947 गांधी आणि नेहरूंनी अखंड भारत का नाकारला.
Kana Kala.
The I mean, in that book also, it has a different perspective on India's partition. I mean, British India's partition. So he takes you back till that Salayed Ahmed Khan, and then from there on, he kind of starts his history. And his perspective is like, there are incidents in the history which has been not criticized. I mean, I would not say criticized, but not have been told properly, and they have always been seen through the lens of politics. So I mean, there are Muslim entire episode on Mopla and all those things that we can talk about, but that's for a different day. But what my question is, so how do you think that these are the ideologies we should kind of study? For example, you are saying that Tilak, who has been seen as a staunch masculine leader, always talk about Hindus and all those things. So he is giving some land or some constituencies to Muslims, and at the same time, Mahatma Gandhi, who has been always seen as a Muslim pleaser or a minority pleaser, he is kind of talking from the majority point of view. And this has already been discussed in your blogs. I will give the links to the readers in description. But I mean, if I would want you to kind of explain this a little longer.
If you understand what Pakistan thinks of Mahatma Gandhi,
Mhm.
then we will understand what Muslims were thinking from Mahatma Gandhi about Mahatma Gandhi. Now, here I'm always saying that Muslim League was representing Muslims. Congress was trying to present that they're representing all, but let me tell you one thing: the body which represented Hindus was Congress only. The largest body that represented Hindus was Congress. And at that time, if you, I'll give you one link of a song, and that song, if you have heard that song in Hindi cinema, you remember "Dedi Hame Azadi Bina Kharga Bina Dhal."
Yeah, yeah.
साबरमती के संत तूने कर दिया कमाल. A very contentious and debatable song, basically, because I don't believe in this song. One person without Kharga Bina Dal cannot give independence. That I always understand. But there is a Pakistani version of the song, and that Pakistani version says that ए कायदे आजम तूने कर दिया कमाल.
Achha.
That was praising Muhammad Ali Jinnah.
Okay.
Now, in that Qaide Azam, there is something called as there is one line called as Islam ka Dushman. And in Islam ka Dushman, for almost 8 to 10 seconds, Mahatma Gandhi comes on screen. Islam ka Dushman.
Wow.
So Gandhi is taken as a villain for Pakistan. He
Mhm.
was the man who was not giving us Pakistan, and he's completely Islam ka Dushman. Okay. So Gandhi was basically taken as someone as completely against the Muslims, and that is why Muslims used to hate him. Now, this is something different. This is something completely different. And if you realize why that particular separate constituency part was denied to Muslims, because in the sense, if you understand the demands of Muhammad Ali Jinnah, if you understand demands of Muhammad Ali Jinnah, I'll tell you one thing, boss. Um accepting demands and avoiding lamentable partition of this country would have been easy.
Mm.
Let me tell you very frankly. But then accepting Jinnah's demand and thereby avoiding the partition of this country would have created Pakistan within India, and they would have asked for independence today. Now imagine Muslim independence movement in India today. Whatever we have faced in 2019, 46-47, we would have faced it today.
Mm.
10 lakh people that died at that time, almost 1 CR people would have been dead at this particular moment. I mean, or perhaps more, much more than that. Okay. So basically, if I mean, there is a father and he has two or three sons, and one son is saying that, give me my share and let me go. Give me my share and let me go.
Yeah.
And if the father says that, okay, go and get lost, take your share and get lost. Here, father is blamed for the partition and not the son who was demanding that.
Right. I think this was also propagated by Dr. Ambedkar in his thoughts on Pakistan, that if there is a problem with partition, let give him the land that they want. Even he was also ready, I think, to give Kashmir, for example. He was going to that extent. So, I mean, again, there are differences. Again, there are multiple things coming in, and now we have Mahatma Gandhi and Tilak. And Mahatma Gandhi took over after, as you said, 1924 was the the milestone that we see in Indian history. Now, going ahead, you have also mentioned in your blog that there were three major movements that Mahatma Gandhi, carried out in his entire political career. That is, first is non-cooperation movement, and then civil disobedience, and the last one is Salija. So you have mentioned one fact that he could not complete all these, movements anywhere. So again, I mean, I'll go back to the same book that I was referring. In For the non-cooperation movement, Sheshav More has a different angle to it. He was saying that he saw the threat of India going again into the Muslim dominant leadership. So is that right, or what do you think about why he couldn't complete all these three movements?
He couldn't complete and he did not complete. There are two things, first of all, because if you see, in that non-cooperation movement began on 1st of August 1920 with the death of Lokmanya Tilak. It began. Okay. Then if you see the Chauri Chora instance, that was in February 2022. That means for more than a year, the 1.5 year, that moment was going on.
Mhm.
Now, this particular moment, suppose if someone is contributing for this particular moment, then remember one thing: people are leaving their houses, people are leaving their jobs, their education, shops, everything, their occupation, and coming into the moment.
Yeah.
They are giving their own contribution. They are giving their sacrifice. The sacrifice and contribution has its own limits.
Mhm.
Now, if you start demanding that without any end, then next moment people may not give you support. Okay, and apart from that, let me tell you, Chauri Chaura instance, in a sense, I can say Mahatma Gandhi was waiting for the moment to come to take back. Okay,
Exactly.
in a sense, when Chauri Chaura instance happened, that could have been the first threshold that we crossed. Okay, and we started himsa or we started violence. Now, if we become violent, what will British do? They will become more violent.
Right.
They will become more violent, and when the establishment becomes violent, anti-establishers do not have any way but to surrender or to die. Because we were not organized, they were organized. We did not have weapons, they had weapons. We did not have foreign policy, they had foreign policy. Demanding the help from, I mean, the way they crushed 1857. Within 4 months, they crushed 1857.
Mm.
Okay, within 4 months. And 1857, they had all guns and they're much organized sepoys. They had experience also to handle these kind of things.
Right.
That was present also in 1990, 22. Okay, so they would have crashed this moment, the non-cooperation moment, and what happens is that they get the much important purpose or reason to do the violence against Indians. So if that the moment had been carried out, British would have become more violent,
Right.
more violent. So instead of that, take the moment back and just go wait and watch. That period was basically the period of no progress at all in Indian national movement,
Mhm.
and that actually led to many differences. First person who was completely got away from Mahatma Gandhi was Muhammad Ali Jinnah. He
Okay.
was completely disgruntled against this particular policy. Why did you take the moment back? Up to that point, Jinnah was not with Muslim League; he was with Congress. Now, coming to the non civil disobedience movement, if you see, civil disobedience movement is in two parts. First part is disobedience movement before the roundtable conference and after roundtable conference. So before roundtable conference, there was movement and there were people were completely happy and enthusiastic in going with that moment. But
Mm.
then, after giving that promise to Tilak that yes, I will be involved in roundtable conference, and he periodically took the moment back.
Yeah.
Bhagat Singh got away from Congress and Mahatma Gandhi. So
Okay.
people like Bhagat Singh, they got away from this because they were that was not there was no clarity according to them. And then after that failure in roundtable conference against civil disobedience movement, part two started.
Mm. Mm.
Okay, and then if you see this Quit India movement, the
Yeah.
Quit India movement per se had many problems at all, many problems because Mahatma Gandhi wanted to take this moment, and now this time slogan was different: do or die.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
do and what to do, that was not told by Mahatma Gandhi.
Right.
So people were doing only by their own way. So on paper, Quit India movement looks like it got finished in a few days or few months. But then if you see the hidden messages by Quit India movement, all over India the violence was started. And I'm not denying or I'm not criticizing that particular violence. In fact, I'm advocating that violence. But that violence was like Prati Sarkar or Patri Sarkar in Satara. So people started coming and forming their own kingdoms and
Right.
started challenging and started announcing the regions of India independent from the British. That all started. And if you see somehow that Quit India movement goes up to Indian National Army also.
Oh.
Okay, so these are the things. Yes, but there are some criticisms against Mahatma Gandhi for taking the moments back. If you see, if you understand the success of the movement, that success of the movement is also it has different dimensions. But yes, this is a debatable issue, definitely.
Right. So, I mean, it's interesting, right? I mean, at one side, we see that there always been a debate between a right and left wing about Mahatma Gandhi. They tell him from their own perspective. I mean, I was reading Abhiram Dikshit's blog, if you know him, on Facebook. He says that Mahatma Gandhi's book itself is called Hindutva. So I mean, there are multiple things, and he is kind of a interesting character, just like Swatantra V. Savarkar. So, but I would like to ask you the same question. So, now we have seen that Tilak has a different altogether situation to deal with. At the same time, Mahatma Gandhi has another sort of different situation coming in at his end. So they took some decision at their with their own intellect, with the environment that they were in, and all those things. Now when we today's today's people, when we read history, there will always be a layer that they see these two characters from. So, for example, if you see Mahatma Gandhi, you will see him as a international leader with non-violent movement, a leader of the non-violent movement, and all those things. At the same time, Tilak will be always shown as a leader with masculine figure, and talking about the oppressor of social reformers in that way, if we took that analogy, and all those things. So now when we read history, how do you think that we should kind of blank ourselves and look at the situation as they are, instead of kind of putting it your own perspective in that? And now that this ideology based history writing, or whatever you say, I mean, there's a debate that history writing has always been idealized in that way. After Nehru took over, I mean, there is a lot of dominance from communist and left wing people. And now we see that there's complete different extreme situation, like where right wing wants to kind of come in and tell history in their way. So how do you think, how do you kind of look at the whole situation?
First of all, I would like to have a focus on confusion around Mahatma Gandhi.
Okay.
Hmm? In a sense, I basically support the partition of India because I have not got the logical reasoning for Akhand Bharat concept. Because with Akhand Bharat, India's Muslim population, because all the people who are advocating Akhand Bharat, they don't love Muslims. I will not say they will hate Muslims, but they don't love Muslims. And
Right.
basically, they don't want more Muslims in India. Okay. So these are the people who are talking against the Muslim infiltration, Bangladeshi infiltration, and all, and they talk about Akhand Bharat. In Akhand Bharat, let me tell you one thing: the Muslim population will be around 36 to 37%. Because Akhand Bharat will bring Afghanistan, Pakistan, Bangladesh to your country, and only Muslims will come. Hindus will come in lakhs, and Muslims will come in CRs. So today's Muslim population, which is around 15% in India, will go up to 37% of the entire Akhand Bharat. Okay. If you're not comfortable with 15% Muslims, how are you going to be comfortable with 37% Muslims? That's my first argument and question to all the Akhand Bharat advocates. Secondly, dusri baat. In this particular moment, now Gandhi is basically taken as a leader who gave Pakistan. But what was the other option?
Hmm.
If you see Ambedkar's writings, he clearly mentions it. If there is no Pakistan today, then Muslims in India have that ruler's identity in their own mind.
Hmm.
In Pakistan, also, history is basically taught in this way that for almost 1,000 years, more than 1,000 years, we have ruled over India. Okay, so Muslims were basically in that ruling mentality.
Hmm.
Barring the period of Shivaji Maharaj and Bajirao Peshwa and some other Peshwas, if you see, there was and also Vijayanagar Empire.
Okay.
Okay, Muslims are rulers only for the entire period. If we learn the history of India, medieval history of India, it is dominated by Muslims. Two-thirds India is dominated by Muslims, and one-third is from Vijayanagar and then Maratha Empire.
Mhm.
Okay, now that means they were in that particular mentality. They would have thought of ruling in India itself. Today,
Right.
if you see many Muslims in India, most of the population in Muslim India says that after independence we have got second-class citizenship. What do you mean by second-class citizenship? Are they denying their fundamental rights? Not at all. Are they denying their voting rights, the rights in jobs, employment? Not at all. Not at all. But still, they think that they have got secondary. And Hindus never thought of the secondary citizenship.
Right. Right.
Okay. So, if you understand there was no partition, there would have been actually havoc all around the world, all around the country, and Hindus would have been the victim of that havoc. Okay. So, that is why Gandhiji is hated like anything because of this. But at the same time, there was no other alternative left. And apart from that, if you see, Maulana Abul Kalam Azad was the only person who was in Congress, but Maulana Azad also wanted independence with accepting the demands of Muhammad Ali Jinnah.
Mhm.
So if you see the Muslim leadership in India, many of them wanted to have Pakistan or they wanted Gandhiji to accept the demands of Muslims. Now, if you realize what Muslims were demanding, what Jinnah was demanding, it's basically Jinnah wanted independence from India. I mean, I'll just give you one idea. Say, if the Muslim population is more in the country, more in that particular area, within one particular state or area, if the Muslim population is more, then no law will be applicable to that particular country. without taking the majority opinion of Muslims. This is like creating Pakistan within India. Then
Exactly.
let's have it out of India. So there are many other things where there is a confusion around Mahatma Gandhi. The confusion is purposefully created. Apart from that, Congress also had that vote bank politics.
Mm.
If anyone who has given damage to the get damage to the exact stature and image of Mahatma Gandhi, it's Congress party itself. Because Congress party is basically accused of Muslim appeasement. But that Muslim appeasement, if you see by Congress, it starts majority from this Shah Banu case, Muslim appeasement, where where Rajiv Gandhi literally had that Rajiv Gandhi surrendered before some Muslim people. Okay, Shah Banu case. So Congress started getting the tag of Muslim appeasement after that, but that has created damage for Mahatma Gandhi's image. Reason is that if you see Mahatma Gandhi's politics, it was completely a pro-Hindu politics. Yeah, his stance in communal rights were debatable, questionable. But if you see his politics, it was completely with because in any country you have to first think about the welfare of the majority people. You think you preserve the cause of minority, no doubt about that. But if you see the welfare of majority people's welfare is by default the welfare of that particular country. But the welfare should not be at the cost of life, liberty, and property of the minority.
Mhm.
That
Correct.
is the most important part. So
Mhm.
that's why he was doing those things, and because of that you realize his politics is questioned much, and Congress has given such a damage to his opportunity. I'll just give you one example of Congress. Okay, now the difference, because you're saying ultra rightists are ruling, I
Right.
won't call them rightists, they are ultra rightists basically.
Okay.
Now if you give me the opportunity, I will explain you the stand of BJP on Kashmir and Congress on Kashmir. Now if
Right.
you compare between both parties, I'm not saying taking just BJP, I'm taking Jansangh. If
Okay.
you compare between both parties and their contribution to to Kashmir, Congress party's contribution is most to Kashmir. Lot of MPs, MLAs, they have got live threats. How many Congress workers are killed in Kashmir? Today, what BJP is facing in Kashmir was faced by Congress in Kashmir for almost for 40 years after independence.
Mm.
And today, what BJP does, their most important contribution was their first leader who died in Kashmir. Okay, so whenever they are talking in the morning about their own leader, Shama Prasad Mukherjee, he died in Kashmir.
Okay.
BJP still has the memories of Shama Prasad Mukherjee alive. He died for the cause of Kashmir. BJP presents it like that.
Mhm.
And what is the contribution of Congress? It's much more larger than BJP, much more larger than BJP. But then why Congress is not advocating their own people, their own these things? Because the killers of those Congress leaders are the vote bank of Congress.
Yeah. Quite
Because
agree.
killers were, of course, Muslim Pakistani terrorists or Pakistan sponsored terrorists within Kashmir.
Of course.
If Congress thinks that if their own leaders are killed and if the killers are somehow deprecated, killers are somehow criticized, then Congress will end up losing their vote bank. That is the Congress. When I mean, do you even know any 5 to 7 karyakartas of Congress who are killed in Kashmir before the arrival of Lal Bahadur Shastri? How many, I mean, thousands of Congress leaders are killed in Kashmir. Mahatma Gandhi was the one who actually equated Congress well in Kashmir, organized well Congress in Kashmir, and he organized the electoral politics and democracy well in Kashmir, where he himself was the home minister and prime minister of the country, Lal Bahadur Shastri. Does in Congress even take the name of Lal Bahadur Shastri? No, not at all. His as a leader, Shastriji's contribution to Kashmir is immense, immense. But what happens is that if you take the name of Shastri and how hard has he worked for Congress in Kashmir, if you say that, then apart from then automatically his opponents are the vote bankers of Congress, vote banks of Congress.
Right.
Okay, in that vote bank politics, Congress has forgotten its own legacy in Jammu and Kashmir, whereas BJP is sticking to that because although minority, but Hindus are the vote banks of BJP in Kashmir. So
Correct.
Congress, BJP is sticking to that, and that is why you can understand, although having best contribution for Hindus during the international movement, have best contribution for Hindus in Kashmir, Congress is still on back foot, and it is the politics of Congress which has created damage for their own image.
And that's quite a discovery for me also. But I mean, again, I would like to kind of bring you back to the same question, that how do you think this politically driven storytelling? I mean, I personally think that history telling will definitely be impacted by the politics of that time. But at the same time, as someone who is just a reader of a history, what would be your suggestions to them, and what would be your kind of guidance to them, when they want to understand the history at that time, without any perspectives?
If you, what happens? I would like to suggest all is study history from legal point of view. Be it Kashmir's integration to India and India's entire integration against the British.
Mhm.
Okay, from legal point of view. Now, for example, I'll just give you an idea. Till Lokmanya Tilak, what do you mean by Swaraj was not even clear. Although Swaraj is credited to Lokmanya Tilak, there are some sources which say that Dayanand Saraswati was the first who talked about Swaraj. Tilak advocated Swaraj, but what kind of Swaraj? If you see the legal stand of Tilak, Tilak wanted representative democracy under Swaraj.
Yeah.
Once it had happened that Tilak wanted, we do not want this kingdom.
Yes.
And Muhammad Ali Jinnah, who was advocating Tilak, he took the stand legally in the court saying that we do not, it's not that we do not want this kingdom, we do not want this kind of kingdom. So this kind of kingdom. So what kind of kingdom we want? Then we want representative democracy. So during Tilak's leadership, representative democracy was the only version of Swaraj. It was during Mahatma Gandhi's leadership we started getting clarity. Representative leadership. Then we had Swaraj Party. But then it was during Bhagat Singh's period that complete Swaraj, Purna Swaraj, Britishers get lost.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was the thing we started looking for. And then in 19 till 1937-38 we got full idea as to what is Swaraj, and that Swaraj is basically Britishers get lost. That's why we see this Chaleja movement.
Okay.
Understood? Britishers. Mahatma Gandhi criticized British. He wanted representative democracy. Sorry, Lokmanya Tilak criticized British. He wanted representative democracy, but Gandhi, if you see, he wanted Britishers to get lost. Although it might be under the influence of people like Bhagat Singh and Young Brigade. No problem. He adapted that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Uh yeah. Your next
I mean,
question.
yeah. I mean, just to add to that, I mean, the credit also goes to Jawaharlal Nehru, Subhash Chandra Bose. At that time, they were kind of joining the politics. They were young, and then the Purna Swaraj and all those things happened. So, I mean, that's how it went through. But then again, as a history enthusiast, what are some of the things that you take in mind before you kind of read history? For example, if you're reading an incident, so how do you think that I am totally perspectiveless here, and I'm just reading what I'm told to, or what I'm seeing?
I would like to tell you three things. Three things about these two leaders, Tilak and Gandhi. Okay. Now, first of all, Tilak's politics was never a politics of hatred.
Okay.
Tilak was called as Tela Tambolense Pudhari. Teli Tambol is today's other backward classes.
Okay.
So he was very much popular in other backward classes.
Right.
He was a upper class person, and Congress was basically called as the upper class and advocates party, upper class and traders party, Shetji and Bhatji party. Okay, it was Tilak who basically made it a people's national movement.
Hmm.
Okay, so he himself was very popular in that. And what happened was that Lokmanya Tilak and Mahatma Gandhi, they did not hate anyone. If you see Mahatma Gandhi's all speeches, they never hated anyone. They proposed something. And then I will come to the today's part. What happens is that today, gathering people is easy. You can gather people on a Facebook message, on a Twitter also. Tweet also. You can gather the people. But when people gather on the tweet, hardly any of them gather because they love something.
Hmm. Right.
People gather today, no doubt about that. But for what? They love a leader. They love a singer. If you want to organize Kishore Kumar's singing program, then people will gather, no doubt about that. But if you are trying to gather them on social cause, there are many times people gather because they hate something.
Hmm.
That hatred is easier to be spread. You can gather the people against one caste, against one religion, against one ideology, against one language. You can gather the people. But Gandhi gathered the people without hatred against anyone. Now, what happens is that when asking people to hate something, automatically I'm motivating them to hate something.
Right.
Mahatma Gandhi seemed to have motivated people, but against whom? Against whom? I mean, against the Britishers. But
Mhm.
then you never see Mahatma Gandhi hated the Britishers.
Yeah.
What happens here is that now, for example, I will ask people to gather and tell them to throw stones against someone, to have violence against someone. It's easy and people will do it if they find a leader in me. But what Gandhi did, he did not tell anyone to throw stone against someone. In fact, Mahatma Gandhi hypnotized people so much so that people are getting thrashed by the British and coming back and again coming.
Right. Right.
I mean, going and doing nothing. And if you understand that, there are many people who say that Mahatma Gandhi's ahimsa made people important. All right, Mahatma Gandhi's ahimsa made people important. Suppose if I accept this only for the sake of acceptance, then why were the other people who are making the people potent, who are making the people powerful? People chose to go behind him to become important. That means there is something in Mahatma Gandhi, especially in Mahatma Gandhi. Most important part is that, going and just getting thrashed by someone and coming back and going again. If it's a mass hypnosis Mahatma Gandhi has committed, then too he's unquestionable.
Yeah.
Where were the other people who had capacity to make the people? Today I'm motivating against someone. Someone is proposing reform. Then motivators against someone are always popular instead of those who are preparing reforms, because
Yeah.
young blood always wants reforms in democracy or anti-establishment. Young blood, very easy to gather the young blood. That young blood was gathered by Mahatma Gandhi. The young blood was getting thrashed by the British, and again they were respecting Gandhi.
Mm.
Third thing is third thing is both leaders gave programs.
Yeah.
I told you about the programs. Both leaders gave programs. These programs are the real motivators for the followers.
Right.
Mere hatred against someone will not do. You
Yeah.
have to get a program. So Swadeshi, Swaraj, nationalist education, boycott. These were the programs proposed by Lokmanya Tilak. He advocated those programs. He gave an economics behind that.
Mm.
If
Mm.
you see in 1904, if I'm not mistaken, Savarkar organized the Holi of foreign goods in Pune. It was nothing but a manifestation of boycott and Swadeshi only. It
Yes.
was an economic strike Tilak has organized, and Tilak has basically found and organized. That was taken ahead by Mahatma Gandhi in Swadeshi, or in that
Civil.
Dandi Satyagraha and all.
Yeah.
Going from one place to another place, walking hundreds of kilometers and holding just a piece of salt, and people are also doing that. If it is not at all fascinating you, no problem. But were the people mad basically? Can people in lakh become mad just to do that behind an old man?
Not.
Where were the others? So giving program is also a fantastic part, and that's where the leadership stands. And in today's context, if you see, I would like the others to read history from the legal point of view. If you see the history from legal point of view, what were the legal versions of the Indian national movement, then you will realize the pace that we got. That pace was really very natural. Now I would like to say one thing, that India was the first country to get independence.
In.
India was the first country to get, when the wave of decolonization
Okay. Okay. Mm.
came. India was the first country to get independence. Okay, India Pakistan together.
Yeah.
And if you see other countries' independent movements, they have got independence later,
Right.
and their toll in independence movement, their head counts who have lost their lives in independent movement,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's much more bigger than India. So you get independence first, and that too in lesser amount of head counts who died for the country. With due respect to their sacrifice of life, they were less in number. Somehow that particular credit has to be given to the leadership of India.
Right. So I guess the main point is to kind of keep the hatred as well as the love for whatever you believe in, and just read and kind of understand history as it is, I think that's the way forward for people if they want to learn something new. But I mean, thanks, Saurabh. I mean, this is an interesting conversation and quite new discoveries for me also. As the last thing, what are your plans from here on? Because I have seen you active on Facebook, but I mean, have you planned anything to kind of? I know that you have some things already going out, but at the same time, I would also want to ask, like, from the history standpoint, are you planning anything?
Planning in the sense, what I mean, personal level, on personal level, these two leaders have given me something. I mean, after reading up more about these leaders, I have stopped leaders who are who are spreading hatred
Yeah,
through
yeah,
their speeches, through their jobs, everything. Okay, and apart from that, I would like to tell you one thing, that Mahatma Gandhi was not even understood by the followers of Mahatma Gandhi.
yeah,
I mean, today the people who say that they love Mahatma Gandhi, they don't love Mahatma Gandhi. They never understood Mahatma Gandhi. Okay, and
absolutely.
let me tell you one thing. I mean, although you hate Gandhi, you have derogatory thoughts about Lokmanya Tilak. Tilak will always be the first unquestionable leader of the moment, and Mahatma Gandhi is also going to be praised today also, because if you see Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, and if you see Make in India and Swachh Bharat go hand in hand.
Right,
Under Make in India, trying to have more and more investors in India. And if investors are coming with investment, they want Swachh Bharat. That's it.
absolutely.
And for the Swachh Bharat, again, your brand ambassador is Mahatma Gandhi only. He's not going to go anywhere.
Yeah, yeah,
So all the programs which are touching all walks of your life are given by these two leaders, basically. Okay. So walking on their path is going to be the key. I would like to propose as many people as possible to do so. That's my plan. First plan.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, thanks again for your time, and it's been nice talking to you since it's since last 1 hour we are talking, and
Yes.
we got to know a lot about history. For example, the contradictions of those time, the clashes between the two ideologies, but at the same time their objectives were same. Objectives were same. So I mean, thanks again. I would definitely like to talk to you regarding a lot of other socio-political issues that are going on. But for now, I think we should end here.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much.